ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Thank you for turning up this morning. I heard last night was one hell of a party. So you guys either did not go to the party or you are just now half asleep. So in any case, thank you for joining us. I've got an hour session altogether. So I'm going to start by talking for about 20-25 minutes. And then I'm going to invite a panel of, panelists to talk in particular about something which is buzzing right now, which is around digital free trade zone. But before that, let me just talk about our world right now. And I know I'm kind of preaching to the converted here because we know, we of all people, we know just how disruptive the world we are living in now. And it is because of the innovation that we are seeing. We are familiar with things like data analytics, IoT, and so on. But what we sometimes don't really, it's not in our face, are the innovation that's happening in the physical world, things like biotechnology, material sciences, quantum physics. But all this innovation is made even more furious and fast and furious is what I call it, is because of the power of the internet, and that's why it's a hyper-connected world. The power of internet, when innovation came, when TV as an innovation came to the world, it took 75 years for it to go to 50 million users. And look at the number of days, it was just days that Google went to 50 million users, and Angry Bird only took 35 days. So this is about the power of the internet. Now this is to me, a very arresting visual. This is the last two papal inauguration, 2005. You can look at the sea of people, and in 2013, the latest Pope Francis, you look at the sea of people, but you also see a sea of screens of people with smartphones. And this is how, connected the society is. And Pokemon Go in just 2 months, 500 million downloads, and in just 3 months, 600 million in revenue. And we all know that Pokemon Go is the most primitive implementation or manifestation of augmented reality. You can imagine how augmented reality, when applied in areas of medical and education and so on. Data, as we know, data is becoming even more pervasive, diagnostic data as well as predictive data analytics. And this is something which, is interesting to me. Machine learning algorithm can predict heart attacks 4 hours with an 80% accuracy. Comforting, yet scary. So who are the people that will be, because we know that with this disruption, it is also a world of opportunity and also a world of threat. Who will be threatened? People in the old world, a lot. Old economy, old mindsets. Who are the people that's going to be really able to capitalize on these opportunities? And these are just 3 quotes from 3 gentlemen. First is Jack Ma, who talks about 30-30-30. Anybody familiar with this 30-30-30 concept? He talks about the next 30 years. And why 30 years? Because innovation takes about 50-year cycle. And the internet has gone through the first 20 years. The next 30 years, when the balance of now is only half of the people are connected. The balance of the world, the people in the world gets connected as internet becomes more pervasive, more ubiquitous. This is going to be the most defining times of the innovation that will be enabled by internet. So that's the next 30 years. Will be defined by the young people who are less than 30 years old, and these are the people who own companies that are less than 30 people. And why this is important? Because that innovation needs to be, needs to be leveraged or needs to be taken. The opportunity of innovation needs to move not only quickly, but it has to be moved with people with the tenacity, with the ability to, with the passion as well as tenacity, the agility to pivot. I know Patrick Grove talks about pivoting, and all of you in the startup community, you know how important pivoting is. And Elon Musk says also the failure is an option. And you know that for us in Malaysia, in the Asian context, this is something of a cultural mindset that is really difficult. Failure is an option. Yeah? So in Malaysia, if you come to Malaysia, now if you look at last year, the budget, the budget always talks a lot about people and people, the people economy side of things. But if you look at last year's budget, there were two things that came out really strongly. First is the emphasis on internet economy. The economy that is enabled by the internet, number one. Number two is the emphasis on startups and entrepreneurship. Yeah? And this is what, because we do realize, as a country, we do realize that, for us to capitalize on this innovation, we need to make sure that entrepreneurship is thriving, and we have to make sure that the kind of economy that's enabled by the internet is also thriving. And as a result of which, we look into, and I'm coming from the government perspective. I've only been in government for 3 years. I see my colleagues from the multinationals here, Tracy Haresh from Microsoft. So just 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago, I was on the other side, not in government. Now, as in government, we do realize that a lot of the heavyweight lifting is done by the private sector. And that is why what I always say, and the phrase that I always use, is the fact that you are the people that will be defining, you are the people that's going to be driving this world of innovation. What we can do is just to be the wind beneath your wings. And we have 5 areas that we need to get right. So you talk about connectivity. I mean, connectivity is the air that we breathe in this world of internet economy, right? And if you look at last year's budget, there was also a very significant announcement that was made. It was about, it's a rhetorical kind of, you may see it's a rhetorical kind of statement, but it's a very important fundamental objective behind it. And the statement was doubling the speed at half the price. Because all this while, Malaysia has been very focused towards access of connectivity. So we now have 70% broadband connection in the country. But speed is always been something that has not had that kind of emphasis. So last year's budget, we were very, very pleased, and we were fighting for it. The industry was fighting for the fact, the industry and MDEC as well was fighting for this to be recognized. So doubling the speed at half the price. And I'm not sure about you, but I'm already feeling some of it. As a user, I'm already feeling the fact that I'm getting faster speeds at my home and also as through my mobile connectivity. Talent, I'll talk a bit about talent. That's the number one thing the government has to get right, which is about building talent. Regulatory framework, yes, I mean, we have a certain, we are moving in the right direction. If you look at what's happening in the area of fintech, how we have come up with the fintech sandbox, how Bank Negara has come up with the fintech sandbox, how SPAT, has now created a sharing economy, right-sharing act, and not tweaking the current act to cater for the new category of transportation providers. So I think we're getting it right, but we do still see some tension sometimes, of getting it right, but looking at some legacy issues. So we need to make sure, I think in the right direction, but I think we need to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that the opportunities and the threat have to be balanced very, very, very well. Now I want to talk funding. Funding is still to me something that we have to work on. The availability of funding to fuel the startup ecosystem, all the way from angel, from pre-seed to Series A. We are very, very good in the traditional funding of PE funding, but the risk capital funding is something that we have to work on, and this is something that the whole community, MAVCAP and MOF, as well as the private sector. We have to unleash the private sector money, both money that are from overseas, from foreign risk capital players, as well as unleashing what I call the traditional money. We have a lot of tycoons right now with tons of money that has been made from the traditional economy. And we're having very substantive discussions with them now to see, as the next generation of these tycoons are coming back and understanding the new world, how do we go about unleashing that towards this new economy? Yeah? But I want to talk about 2 key policies that we made last year, and it was done quite fast. This is about these catalyzing communities. We do realize that the startup community needs to feed off each other's energy. And it's kind of interesting because, you talk about the world of how connected we are and how we are on Facebook and how we are on phones. Also, on one hand, we are disconnected. On the other hand, we need to, well, you, not me. The world of the startups, you need to come together into a community where you will have these moments of serendipity. Where you will just come up with an idea, and you'll be trashing out concepts, and even just being in the camaraderie of people with a like-minded passion and like-minded ideas. So we wanted to catalyze this, yeah, and that's how we came up with the policy of creating. And those of you who may be familiar with the MSc Cyber Center, where you have got this, where we certify certain locations, and within that you can, if you are within that location, you can get all the MSc benefits of tax exemption and foreign workers visa, the foreign workers permits and so on. But in the past, the cyber centers has been skewed more towards the people who want to operate 24/7. So you have to, the requirement to be a cyber center was to put in 24/7, double redundancy, power supply, and all those things, right? But the startup ecosystem, they don't need all that. It's not about infrastructure. The only infrastructure that you want is just good internet access. But what you want are other things like the community, the availability of mentors. So through this digital hub, cyber center category, it's a new category. It encourages the real estate developers to invest not in the infrastructure for the 24/7 MNC type of operation, but to invest into creating a place, co-working location, to invest in the lifestyle amenities that you guys need to unleash your creativity and to unleash your passion. Yeah, so we have got 3 already in place, and this was just announced, I think, last month. And it was quite fast. Into the policy was made in October, and last month, in April, we launched the first 3. Of course, the basic foundation is a co-working location. But because for them to maintain to be a digital hub, what's needed is for them to invest into the community, to make sure that there is mentors, right? There is this availability of funding and other things. So I think there'll be a workshop later to talk about these digital hubs. I think they are also organizing, right? MDEC is organizing a trip to one of the digital hubs. Are we? All right, good. So Hizam and team they are there. Now, of course, you see, we started with creating this, it's nothing new. Cyberjaya was started much, 20 years ago. Cyberjaya is 20 years today. And for those of you who have not been to Cyberjaya, go to Cyberjaya because it is not as boring as some of you think it is. How many of you have been to Cyberjaya in the last, 6 months? You see, many of you have not. Go in and take a look at it. It is thriving, but it is, you'll see a lot of these big multinationals, right? So it was, this concept is not new, but it was, Cyberjaya was done in this big greenfield kind of approach. And if you look at across the region, many other countries are coming into this kind of concept as well. What we want to do is, do I really have only 1 minute left? Okay, all right. So, when it's always a challenge for me to speak in a short period of time. Okay, anyway. But the one that is going to be KL Internet City, I think the one that you have seen outside in the foyer, right? So KL Internet City is going to be the big one. So if you can visualize, there'll be this hub and spoke kind of concept because it's a community. We're not thinking about having a big, massive. I think Thailand and Indonesia is building this massive kind of like acres, hundreds, thousands of acres kind of locations. We believe that we need to go to where you want to be. So we're looking at when there is a community already there, then we will then make that community bigger and stronger. And what we hope to do is to create like a center of where the community is, a center of all the communities, and we want it to be in KL Internet City. And what's important with all of these digital hubs, and including KL Internet City, is that it will be run by the community leaders, by your Jedi Masters, as I would, by your leaders. So like in KL Internet City, it will be headed by the Catcher Group. If you look at the other digital hubs, it will also be these people coming together and developing their own set of communities. Okay, so I think I'm going to skip talent. I spoke about talent. And just, I mean, this is something that you guys, like, again, I think I'm preaching to the converted here, but we know that with the area of, with innovation, and this is something coming out of WEF that talks about 65% of the kids, of our kids in school right now, when they come out to work, 65% of them will be going to look for, will be working in jobs that don't even exist today. And if you have not seen this app, it's an interesting one. It's done by Microsoft and LinkedIn. It talks about the area of interest. So if you pick one, and we've got some examples here. If you like medicine and technology, your future job is going to be a mixed reality surgeon. Interesting, right? I wish I could go back in time. Then if your interest is in arts and food, then your future job could be a 3D flavorist, yeah? So just go and just play around with it. It's really interesting. And if you have kids, not many of you have kids, or some do have kids, yeah? A lot of you are still young. Go and ask them to play around with this particular app. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about Malaysia and what we're doing. Like I mentioned earlier, I think for government, the one thing that we have to get right is to really build our organic talent. I'm talking about organic talent, yeah, as one critical pillar. And you may have heard, and I don't have time to go through the details today, about the fact that we're one of the first countries in the world. It's a very bold move, that where we have embedded computational thinking and computer science and coding embedded into the school's curriculum. And this is one component of it, but we also have, it's called the My Digital Maker movement. The embedding of the curriculum is one part, and this will cover, 5 million kids in stages, of course, in about 3 to 4 years, all of them will be covered. But we also have, together with it, it's like a push and pull strategy. So once they are exposed to all, then we start pulling out the talented. And it's really amazing. I feel very encouraged with the kind of kids that we are getting that is coming out, and this will be kids that we would never have uncovered, the kind of talent. And I love to bring out all these stories, and I've got 3 of them. I've just randomly picked 3, and I just want to talk about this guy. You may have seen him he came out in the Star front page, this 14-year-old boy. This Lim Wenji, he is when we uncovered him, he was just learning coding on his own, and he built 50 apps and 600,000 downloads. And I think the Star did a calculation. If he had charged 90 cents for his downloads, he would have earned $1.2 million US, or something like that, right? So anyway, this is a very important component. But while we develop our organic talent, we also need to make sure that we also attract the best, because, we want the best brains in the world to come into Malaysia and be part of our communities. So we have announced this, and this is getting a lot of interest, a lot of traction, right, Hizam? Yeah, we get a lot of interest coming, because as worlds, even Silicon Valley is kind of like closing its doors in a way, and you have Brexit and stuff, but we're opening our doors, right? So this is a special new visa, and again, it was done in super fast timeline. The policy was approved in October. October is when a lot of policy things happen. And then we managed to announce this and actually launch it. We already have applicants for this in April. So what it does is that it allows, if you are a startup wannabe, if you've got an idea and you want to come to Malaysia and build upon your idea, you can just get a 1-year resident pass. What is it called? 1 year what pass? Professional pass. And then if you're a serial entrepreneur, technopreneur, this is a tech pass, yeah? It's called the Malaysian Tech Entrepreneur Pass. Then you can come in and get 5 + 5. What pass is it called? Resident pass. A resident pass, okay? So anyway, there'll be a workshop for it later if you want to understand a bit more. So let me just shift gear a little bit and talk about the whole bigger picture. Now we talk about the startup ecosystem. Now, MDEC's role is to really develop the whole digital economy in a more holistic manner. And how we measure it is by percentage of digital economy as a percentage of the overall economy. So we are now at 17.8. We want to go to 20% by the year 2020. And how do we do it? It's about, we've listed all these 4 things here, from driving investment. We want to make sure also that we have an ecosystem. We build, which is the third pillar, which is about driving ecosystem. I talked about the startup ecosystem, very important. Another ecosystem that we are focusing on is the e-commerce ecosystem. Why? Because Malaysia is a trading nation, right? And as trade goes into the e-commerce, if we don't make sure that we onboard to the world of e-commerce, then we'll be marginalized as a trading country. So that was why we put in a very strong focus, and I won't go more into this, just to let you know that we have got this National E-commerce Strategic Roadmap that aims to double the growth of e-commerce, and it's got all the various things like SME adoption, e-procurement, lifting non-tariff barriers, and so on and so forth. And this is multidisciplinary. It's private sector plus public sector, and even with the public sector, I think we're pulling together, like, I can't remember how many agencies and how many ministries. It's a massive task. It's being chaired by our MITI minister, Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohamad. Okay. But within this, as a subset of this, and this is an opportunity that came out.
The future of the global...
Hang on. Okay, let me just, before I do some preamble. See, this whole concept started at World Digital last year. If you remember World Digital last year, our Prime Minister was the special guest. This year was Tony Fernandes, yeah? The surprise guest was our Prime Minister. And this was when he met with Patrick, and he was so excited with the energy of the people that he saw in this room. And then after this World Digital, we went outside, and Patrick and the 3 of us were kind of like brainstorming, and he said, what can we do, Patrick? So Patrick said, okay, I'll go and think about it, and I'll come back. And indeed, he did come back to me first, and he talked about this digital free trade zone. At that time, Jack Ma was only talking about it out of Russia, I think. His concept of this EWTP, this Electronic World Trade Platform, where he believes that globalization is getting a backlash because globalization of the past had only been benefiting the big guys, but the small, the SMEs don't really know how to, it's too complex for the SMEs to be on board. So EWTP is supposed to create this whole community of 6 billion, community to be trading globally through, enabled through a virtual platform. Okay, so, and he came back, and the Prime Minister, he came to me, and I was excited about it, and then I invited Patrick to present to the Prime Minister again in October. I told you October is a very exciting month in Malaysia, right? At least for us in government. And again, the Prime Minister loved it, and he announced it in the budget. And in November, when he met Jack Ma in Beijing for something totally unrelated to this, he invited Jack Ma to come and be part of it. So I'll now shift gear to Digital Free Trade Zone. I'll just spend a little bit of time to tee up what is it all about, and I'll invite the panelists, okay? But a video first? Okay, a video first. Oops, I think I missed the video. Back. Okay, got it.
The future of the global economy is digital, borderless, and limitless. It is truly accessible to everyone.
I personally believe globalization is a great thing for the world. The only thing is that how we can improve globalization to enable more small business, more young people to get involved in. What if we can, using a new mechanism, new technology, can enable 1 billion or 2 billion or 3 billion people to do trade?
The Malaysian government and Alibaba are working together to empower young entrepreneurs and small businesses so that they can participate and thrive in the global economy.
EWTP, the Electronic World Trade Platform. We think EWTP should be sponsored by the business and supported by government. So if we can build up a platform that can enable small business and young people to do the free trade and open fair trade globally, this is going to be very fundamental for the next 20 or 30 years world economy and for this century.
This cross-border trading platform will lower the barriers that have been holding back small and medium enterprises in the global economy, complex regulations and processes. Dealings with international organizations, governments, and social groups focusing on SME development are all integrated on this single platform.
We aspire to penetrate the global market and trade internationally.
Most people don't realize that there are more people in Southeast Asia today using the internet than in all of the EU, than in all of the United States of America. What we have in ASEAN is a huge untapped digital market that needs to be explored.
我们在马来西亚成立了一间合资公司，来发展整个东南亚市场。中国有14亿多人口，他们可以在马来西亚找到他们非常感兴趣的产品。
Worldwide digital economy has been growing at an impressive rate of 10% a year, more than triple the rate of overall global economy growth.
Digital economy powered by the internet is important in driving the overall digital economy agenda, where its contribution to the country's growth is becoming more significant.
It is estimated that a 20% increase in ICT investment will result in 1% of GDP growth of the country. With the projected 100 billion connections that are going to happen in the next 10 years, digital technology will play an even larger role in the economy.
Malaysia is poised to benefit immensely if we exploit its full potential, and this is why Malaysia is taking a proactive step in introducing the world's first digital free trade zone. I believe we can benefit greatly from a close collaboration with renowned global players to realize this vision.
The Digital Free Trade Zone, or DFTZ, is the SME's window to the world and the gateway for global brands and marketplaces.
This is cash flow. This is operating costs being reduced.
It merges physical and virtual zones to facilitate seamless cross-border collaboration and energize digital innovation. DFTZ will make Malaysia a sourcing hub for global marketplaces and serve as the regional e-fulfillment center. DFTZ is backed by an e-fulfillment hub with support services and easy access to air and sea ports. The first e-fulfillment hub will be at KLIA Aeropolis. SMEs in the e-commerce ecosystem will benefit from the best fulfillment facilities. Integrated systems will simplify customs processes and improve traceability across the supply chain. Reduced processing time and close proximity to major logistics hubs will allow SMEs to provide world-class service to customers. This will be followed by the KL Internet City Service Hub in Bandar, Malaysia. It will be the home for aspiring young entrepreneurs, incubators, accelerators, and venture capitalists.
If we can get everyone together within proximity of everyone else in one area, one city, and one home, this without a doubt puts Malaysia as a center of gravity for the entire internet ecosystem.
With DFTZ, businesses will no longer be limited to a confined marketplace. They will be empowered to take part in the global trade. DFTZ will increase more than double the SME export growth rate by 2025, with an estimated $65 billion worth of goods moving through the DFTZ. 60,000 direct and indirect jobs will be created.
We thank our strategic partners for working together with us, and DFTZ will help make Malaysia a regional hub for e-commerce in line with Malaysia's National E-commerce Strategic Roadmap. This is an integral component in growing Malaysia's digital economy.
DFTZ, growing businesses, creating jobs, building economy, and catalyzing trade.
Okay, so I hope that video is self-explanatory. Just a quick recap though, as you know, the two big plays around digital free trade zone is to increase the SME, cross-border trade, and also to position Malaysia as a regional hub for e-commerce logistics. So it means that for marketplaces and even mono brands, it's not only about the trade between Malaysia and, it's not about the bilateral trade, but it's also about, and what we are seeing right now, the opportunity really in the transshipment, because there's a lot of regional trade, and Malaysia is really optimized to be right smack in the middle of of where the global trade is. If you think about it, that's how Malaysia started. The Straits of Malacca was the center of trade many years ago, and now we hope to reposition Malaysia as a strategic location in the world of e-commerce trade. Okay, so, and we talk about, you heard about the whole, the three components of it. The physical component is what's going to be in KL Aeropolis for a start. It's the first phase. It's going to be in the, the LCCT old airport, KLIA, the old low-cost terminal airport, but it's going to be expanding. That's only the first phase. It's expanding from there. The investments from Alibaba to put up the regional logistic hub there is going to be significant. And at the same time, we're looking also at the local logistic players being part of it, and we're also looking at the other logistic players who are servicing not only marketplaces but also mono brands are also looking into repositioning their regional hub into Aeropolis. And then, we talk about the KL Internet City. KL Internet City not only serves as the, as what we had mentioned, the one community, the big community, the mother of the digital hubs, for the communities to come together, but it is also a place for the O2Os, so offline and online. So you can have some of the offline sort of presence in the KL Internet City as a feeder to KL Aeropolis. And a big component of it is this virtual component, where we'll be integrating with platforms such as One Touch of Alibaba and eventually other platforms. Okay, so. I think I don't have to talk to you about how big, about Alibaba is. And to me, some of the numbers, I know they were big, but it's quite staggering to see the fact that, they are bigger than Amazon. And from a GMV perspective, they're bigger than Amazon and eBay combined. And the fact that, the 11/11, which is their Singles Day, which started only like 2 years ago, I believe, or just a couple of years at most, the kind of volume is, is 17.8 billion, and you compare that to what's happening in Black Friday is only about 2.7 billion. So they're pretty big, but also from the level of innovation. I won't go through all of them, but they are really some using, the platform is also a data engine, not just an e-commerce platform, but it's also a data engine. So, but what's important is that we have the full commitment from the Alibaba team. And we have been so privileged to be able to work with these teams, where we have had many sessions of course, between the Prime Minister and Jack Ma himself, but at the same time, the teams, our respective teams, we have many discussions, both in Hangzhou, in China, as well as them coming over. In fact, just last week, I think we had a huge team from the logistic Alibaba team and China team to be here to discuss the progress and, how to operationalize the FTZ. Okay, so I won't go through all of this, but just to tell you, it is a humongous task, and people tell me that it takes a lot of courage to be able to do this. And just to give you a sense of it, we have to work around details such as cargo clearance, which is now in Malaysia at only 6 hours with not much of an SLA, so we have to move to 3 hours with a 90% SLA, and there is a lot of work that has to be done around that. But at the end of the day, the SME onboarding is going to be critical as well. We will be flagging off by end of this year 1,500 SMEs to use this DFTZ platform.